In this lecture, we will talk about the visual geometry group or VGG. VGG is a type of a convolutional neural network or a CNN that is used for image classification. The image classification problem states that we have an input image X and we have a set C of possible categories. Let them be C1, C2 to Cn. We have to assign one of these categories to X and that is labeled as Y. Mathematically, image classification is a rule from X to Y such that Y belongs to C. Now, there are many state-of-the-art architectures or models that have been designed to solve this problem. For example, MobileNet, ResNet, DenseNet, Vision Transformer, and VGG. We will cover these later in the course. When we are designing a convolutional neural network, these are some parameters that we need to adjust to get a suitable design, to get a functioning design. So, stride means how many times we are moving the kernel or the filter when processing a feature map. Padding means whether we are adding extra values to the outside, to the borders of the image to increase its dimensions. Filter size means the size of the kernel that is being applied on the image. It can be 3 by 3, it can be 5 by 5, it can be 7 by 7 and so on. Depth means the number of layers. And another parameter is the number of filters in each layer of the convolutional neural network. So we can adjust these 5 designs. The VGG that we are going to talk about now, it fixes these as constant and adjusts these two experiments with. So let's dive into detail about the VGG network. Let's look at the architecture of the VGG network. The VGG network is classified into 3 different categories based on the number of layers in the network, based on the depth of the network. So these are VGG 13 with 13 layers, VGG 16 with 16 layers, and VGG 19 with 19 layers. Each of the 3 variants has this thing in common, the input image. It is resized to 224 cross 224 cross 3. After that, each of the 3 networks has 2 convolutional layers. This means convolutional layer with 64 filters. So each of these layers for each network has 64 filters. After that, there is a max pooling layer. And after that, each of the 3 again has 2 layers, each with 128 filters. Then again there is a max pooling layer. If you can recall, the max pooling layer shrinks or reduces the dimensions of the input. So it is kept here or added here to keep the dimensions in check. After that, there is a convolutional layer with 256 filters and a second convolutional layer with 256 filters, and only 2 layers in this portion for VGG 13. Whereas VGG 16 has an extra convolutional layer with 256 filters and VGG 19 has a fourth convolutional layer with 256 filters. Then there is a max pooling layer that is again common in each of the 3 networks. After that, the VGG 13 has a convolutional layer with 512 filters and another same convolutional layer with 512 filters. VGG 16 again has an addition and VGG 19 has another addition. Once again, there is a max pooling layer, and after that, the VGG 13 has 2 layers, both with 512 filters, and VGG 16 has 3 layers, each with 512 filters, and VGG 19 has 4 layers, each with 512 filters. Finally, there is another max pooling layer. For the convolutional layer, the stride used by VGG is 1 and the filter size is 3 by 3 and the padding is the same. Same padding means that one layer of zeros is being added, and the purpose is to keep the output dimensions the same as the input dimensions. Now for the max pooling layer, the stride is 2, filter size is 2 by 2 and there is no padding. That means no extra addition of any zeros. Finally, here we have three fully connected layers. The fully connected layer aggregates or combines all the features or all the outcomes of the previous layers and turns them into meaningful classifications. There are three fully connected layers. The third one is 1000 classes, 1000 neurons. This number is important. This number means that our model, the VGG, can classify our data into 1000 different classes. We can use a custom number here such as 100 if in our domain we have only 100 classes, or any number in the range 1000 depending upon our need. Finally, there is a softmax activation function. This is a special type of function that we will talk about later. This function, it outputs a probability for each of these classes, and the one with the highest probability is selected for model's prediction. If you look at this whole architecture, the first layers, they calculate low level features. This means the edges, the boundaries, etc. And the last ones, they calculate high level features such as the objects in the image or the class of the image, also called the category of the image. So this was the architecture of the VGG network. One important parameter when we are selecting a model in deep learning for a task is to check the memory complexity of the model. The memory complexity of the model, that refers to the space taken by that model in memory. It depends on the number of parameters that the model learns, the number of weights of the model. So for VGG 13 there are 133 million parameters with 13 layers. For VGG 16 138 million parameters, and for VGG 19 144 million parameters. These two models have shown to outperform VGG 13 in multiple tests, but they have slightly more parameters and so their memory complexity is higher.